so hopefully you can see this presentation here. The reason I'm qualified, or I think I'm qualified to talk to you about raising VC money, is because I've spent most of my career in finance and I've made a huge amount of mistakes along the way and learned a hell of a lot from it. So I spent 16 years in banking, JP Morgan and Credit Suisse, and I left to set up Sugar in 2019. In that time, I've helped a lot of publicly listed businesses raise money and startups raise money. I've raised angel money for my own businesses and helped other people raise money as well. And last year we completed a VC round for Sugar, which was led by Passion Capital and Velo Partners, both two VCs. I also have the benefit or the misfortune of one failed startup and 5 failed startup investments. So I've seen how things can go wrong, how things should be done from every single angle. Just to give you a quick introduction to Sugar, just before I go into the main crux of the presentation, we are a financing platform for the games world. So we are a platform that provides fully automated, fully data-driven growth finance to provide capital to help game studios grow. The benefit of our platform is it's super quick and easy for studios to sign up to, and it allows you to get moving really quickly once your game is rolling. Our 3 main products are Sugar Boost, Sugar Flow, and Sugar Cap. Sugar Boost is marketing finance, so we take the data from your game and we make instant financing decisions and get you scaling, or give you the capital to get scaling. The second thing we do is we give you instant access to your store revenues, whether it's Apple, Google, PlayStation, or Steam. You're going to have to wait a long time for that money, so we give it to you instantly. And the third thing we do is we give you VGTR capital immediately. So rather than wait 3 or 6 months for your money, we can do that instantly. And again, the process we have there is super quick. So moving into the crux of the presentation now, about raising money and getting access to this money tree that everybody seeks. I'm just going to give you an overview of what I think is best practice for raising VC money, some experiences, some learnings, and things that you should think about. So first of all, what is a VC? I know I might be teaching some of you to suck eggs by going through this, but I think it's important to understand because then you know what they are looking for. So a VC invests in early stage businesses and invests on behalf of others to make a very large return. They invest in you in exchange for a share of your business, and they're very akin and they're keen to take risks. So they might invest in you before you have a game, before you have any revenues, before you even have a vertical slice. But you need to make sure that you're right for VC money, because they will invest in 50 businesses generally over the life cycle of a fund. And they want to know that by investing in you or in any business they're investing in, they're going to make 30, 40, 50 times their money. So if you are interested in building a studio that you think could be worth millions and millions one day, that could well be of interest to a VC. But that needs to be part of your plan. And when you're pitching and thinking about fundraising, if that is your plan, that's great for VC. If it's not your plan, there's nothing wrong with that, but if it's not your plan, it won't be right for a VC. And then they're going to want an exit at some point. So whether you're going to sell the business, IPO the business, merge with another company, they want to know how you're going to crystallize money for them. VC has many forms. I'm going to go through probably the 4 most interesting segments and types that are relevant for you as a game studio. Firstly, there are games-focused VCs. So there's LVP, Makers Fund, Hero Capital, and Velo Partners, who are one of our lead investors. There are many more games VCs, but these are just some brand names that are well known. Then there are corporate VCs. So Tencent, for instance, takes stakes in studios. They do this because ultimately, if the game studio does incredibly well, they want to have optionality to buy the entire business and the game at some point, and it gives them a foot in the door. Then you have early stage VCs such as Passion Capital or Seed Camp. Passion was our lead investor, but these VCs like taking early stage risk, but they look across all industries and sectors there, and they'll pretty much invest in anything as long as it's an idea they believe in. Then you have VCs that invest in Series A and beyond, and these are later stage investors. So they probably won't be your first VC round, but when you do incredibly well as a studio and you have a good amount of revenues, these are the funds that will give you 5 to 10 million of funding to take you up to multiple millions of revenues and scale globally. So it's worth also knowing that a VC brings not only money, they bring their network, their expertise, connections and experience, and they can help you in a business sense probably more than any other type of investor. They have amazing reach, and they've seen all the mistakes before. So it's not that they will stop you from making mistakes, but they'll be very balanced as they help you on your journey, because they've been there and done that. So they will understand the mistakes you're going to inevitably make and help you work them out. The other thing that's great from a VC point of view is when you raise your first round with a VC, they are planning or hoping that you will do so well that they will invest in you again in your next round. And they have plenty of firepower generally to be able to do that. Plus they have board expertise. So once you get VC money on your shareholder register, you will need to have a board in place. And they have been on many boards. They know how it should be run, which is great for your corporate governance, which will become very important for you. So what do you need to snag a VC? What are the things that you need to have in place before you even think about approaching a VC? I would argue that there are these 5 things that are super important. A business plan is an absolute must, as is a financial model. There's a couple of links at the bottom of the page written in a few games publications actually that give a very good overview of how to build a business plan. You'll also need a hiring plan. Obviously, you're going to need to build a team. Lots of people around you have to share your vision and can do great things. And you're going to have a product roadmap. You know, is it game 1, game 2, game 3? And then what's the studio going to look like in 5 years? A VC will really want to know that. And then this will all sort of boil down into an investment deck, which you'll need to share with the VCs as well. How do you attract a VC? It's a little bit like speed dating, because you are going to have to talk to 50, 60, 70, 100 VCs before actually you get the 1 or the 2 or the 3 that are going to invest in you. And I know that can sound quite scary, but you need to know that before you even start the process. The best way obviously to meet a VC is through a warm intro, through your network, or through people you know, or through people you've met at conferences. Look for somebody who can introduce you to the VCs that you think might be interested in your studio. Also do your research. Don't approach a VC if you're making a VR game and they have stated on their website or in their blog or on their Twitter feed that they don't want to invest in VR. Or don't approach a generalist VC if for whatever reason they've said they're not interested in the games world. Then I'd sort of move on to cold emailing and applying online. Now, I used to be a real cynic of this, so wind back 5 years and I would never have done this in a million years. But actually our lead investor, Passion, we got in touch with them through a cold email. I remember summer last year when the world was quite bleak and it was very hard to raise money. We sent them an email and they came back, and miraculously that led to a really good dialogue, and wind forward 6 months and they're a major shareholder of ours now. So don't lose faith. You're going to have to send out a lot of cold emails, but you should definitely do that. And then finally, be persistent, because for every yes you're going to get from a VC, you're going to get 25 or 30 no's. Which sounds harsh, but that's unfortunately just the way of the world. But it's worth the risk, because if you get a VC involved, it puts you in a great position. I think it's important to understand the timelines of raising money. Raising money from angels can be relatively quick, but it takes at least 6 months to raise money from VCs. Here I've laid out the timeline and all the things you need to think about from month 1 to month 6. But month 1 to 2 is going to be a combination of outreach and pitching and follow-ups and more meetings and calls. And then hopefully you get to the term sheet in month 4, which is an offer effectively from a VC that's going to say, we will invest X amount of money in your business on these terms. Then you get into the legals, which are back and forth around shareholder agreement and articles, and then hopefully you get the money. But just be realistic about timeframes. It can go quicker, but you need to assume it's going to take 6 months. What else should you think about? These are definitely things that I did not think about 5 years ago. So an options plan. You need to make sure that the key people in your business are incentivized, that they are not only working in the business, but they're incentivized to help turn your studio into a multi-million-pound business. So you need to have options in place, and a VC will be very, very keen to make sure this is done properly. You need to think about share classes. So when you get a VC involved, often they want a different type of share class. Now, to be completely candid, this scared the hell out of me when I first went down this road, but it's super normal for a VC to ask for a slightly different share class. And I'm happy to discuss that offline with anyone if they want to go into more detail. Valuations, be on top of what's the right valuation. And that means looking at what other studios are raising money at, look at what the VC invests in and what price they generally pay. Because if you are super early stage, but you think your business is worth 30 or 40 million, that's not really realistic, and you need to understand what are the right numbers. And then the final point is about board and corporate governance. I alluded to it before, but you're going to need to have the right processes in place. You need to know who's going to be on your board, how many members there will be, who has what vote, who has what say, and what are the right things to do from a corporate governance point of view. And then onto the final slide now is one of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite films, Back to the Future. This really is just where I like to think about, if I had a time machine and I could go back, what would I do differently? What mistakes did I made? What learnings can I take from that? So firstly, speak to smart people. Sort of sounds obvious, but make sure you have the right advisors in your business who can help you, either with the business plan, the financial model, the deck, introduction to VCs, etc. Have one or two people who are not actually in the business day to day who can help you with that. Secondly, ask for intros. Again, it sounds super obvious, but in your network, you'll know people who might know people who can make intros to VCs, and a warm intro, to a VC is worth its weight in gold. Third point, don't ask for NDAs or be precious about your deck. A lot of studios request that an NDA is signed, or they don't want to share their deck with a VC. A VC looks at probably 2,000 decks a year, and actually they just can't be bothered to go through the process of signing lots of NDAs or going back and forth to getting a deck. If you want to get VC money, you just need to recognize that you're going to have to share your deck with them, and it's probably going to, that's just the way of the world. Fourth, use Trello. Treat this like a product launch. So you need to have a process in place to track VCs that you've messaged, VCs who have said yes, VCs who have said no. First conversation with a VC, second conversation. So treat it as you would a game launch effectively, with lots of stages, and be super diligent, because before you know it, you're going to have a long list of VCs, hopefully, and you can easily get lost in who's doing what, where, and how. Fifth, know which lawyer you're going to use. You will need a lawyer. You'll need a good lawyer. So make sure you have that lined up, because if things do go quicker than you expected, you need to make sure you have that in place. And stay on top of costs, because obviously they can escalate quite quickly. Sixth point, act fast. If a VC asks you a question or wants an answer to something, you basically answer immediately. You can't leave it a day. You can't leave it any longer. Otherwise, they might lose interest or move on. You've got to be super quick. Seventh point is to read the tea leaves. And what I mean by that is, if you are pitching to a VC and they go quiet for a week or 2 weeks, or they don't answer you, or they seem a bit sort of aloof, it's because they're doing lots of things, but it's probably because they've moved on to something else and they're actually not interested in your business. So don't waste your time chasing up those leads in general. And then the eighth point about uncommercial details and obsessing over them. When you get to a legal stage, back and forth with VC and there's lawyers involved, there'll be 50 things that a lawyer has found that they think you should think about from an investment point of view and from a corporate governance point of view. If you obsess over every one of those details, it's going to slow you down. It's going to slow the VC down. And actually, half the time, they're not actually that important. A lawyer is just doing their job and being super diligent, but it's your job to decide what's relevant and what's commercial and what's just not. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm not going to go through this slide, but it goes without saying, you need to plan ahead. You should assume it takes 6 months and make sure you have everything lined up before you even approach a VC. If anyone wants to drop me an email or to talk about any of these points in more detail, I love talking about these things. Very happy to just offer some advice and have a chat. I said it last time and a few people followed up, and I'm still chatting to them, and I'd absolutely do it again. Otherwise, please visit the website, follow us on Twitter, and if there's any